Today is day 78 of the podcast, and we've been talking about possession of the land of the kingdom by conquest. And I want to just say, I'm not making little of this topic. If I cover it in just a few days, it isn't because it is coverable in a few days. I'm spending a whole couple of years teaching a discipleship study, sonship study called Overcoming. So it's a much broader topic. I'm just speaking to a small fraction of definitions as we're looking at this. So how do we oppose the world or these world systems? It really goes back to the whole idea of submission and all that we learned from Jesus when it came to that topic. He only said what he heard the Father saying. He only did what he saw the Father doing. He never acted on his own initiative. So in order to be an overcomer when it comes to the world and its enticements, we have to be ones who are submitted to Christ and his authority and power. So let's look at the next place where conquest has to come, and that's in the topic of the flesh. So what is the flesh exactly? If you remember back to our first couple weeks of this journey together, and I drew my doughboy illustration, and I showed that when the soul, our mind, our will, and our emotions partners with our body and our body's appetites and desires, apart from the indwelling life of the Spirit, the soul and the body, apart from the Spirit, is what flesh is. So flesh leaves us then under the dominion of sin and our fleshly desires. Where the world is making its appeal from an external position, sin is making an appeal and trying to drive us from, or sin or flesh is driving us internally. And we're waging an internal battle with sin desiring to continually dominate what we do, what we say, how we live. I would suggest at this point that you read all of Romans 7, because Paul really addresses this internal conflict that's being waged. The important thing to remember when it comes to conquering in this area is we have been set free by the indwelling life of Christ to no longer be slaves of sin. We have a choice in the matter, but we have to continually walk in submission with this choice. I want to read Galatians 5:17. And it says, for the flesh sets its desire against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, for these are in opposition to one another, so that you may not do the things that you please. Another version says, the Spirit is opposed to the flesh, and the flesh is opposed to the Spirit, and you are never free from the conflict. So let's make up our minds now. Though we are never free from the conflict, we can daily be victors in this area and keep our soul and our body in submission to the indwelling Holy Spirit. So here's today's question for you. How does your will, that part of your soul, your mind, will, and emotions, how does your will or your thinking or your emotions most successfully argue with you to get its own way?